Essential to Maoism is the mass line, where the party is in continual contact with the people developing political policy. Well, Mao Zedong is going to be remembered. I mean, let me put it this way, right? Julius Caesar, right? Julius Caesar, he was around, BC, right? 73 BC, I believe, was when he was killed. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But yet, we know about Julius Caesar, right? He's a pivotal figure because he brought the Roman Empire to Gaul. He was pivotal in the Roman Empire, right? So, people remember Julius Caesar because even though 2,000 years ago, people don't know much about him, but he's just remembered as a pivotal person in world history because he played such a great role. Not a very good role, enslaving a lot of people, killing a lot of people, but overall, Julius Caesar is remembered because of such a pivotal role he played in world affairs. It was a very different world. He was the one who brought the Roman Empire to so many different places. Well, Mao is going to be remembered, I think, probably more so than Lenin and Stalin, because Mao took China. As a result of Mao's revolution, China went from being one of the poorest countries in the entire world to now being a global superpower. And that process began with Mao. The first steel mills in China were brought in during Mao's era when the Soviet Union was aiding China. Mao, he seized political power, he brought the Communist Party to power in China, and he rapidly transformed the country. Now, it continued and the modernization escalated after his death with Deng Xiaoping. But overall, Mao started the process of China going from being one of the poorest countries in the world to becoming a superpower, to becoming the second largest economy in the world, and to continuing to rise, right? What Chinese people call the Great Revival of Chinese civilization began really with Mao. And Mao is going to be remembered for that. And Mao was a political genius. And if you read Mao's writings, you read, the biographies of Mao, not the hit pieces, but you read Wind in the Tower by Han Suyin or The Morning Deluge. You read interviews with people who met Mao, people who worked with Mao, people like Anna Louise Strong, Agnes Smedley. Mao was a genius. Mao knew how to organize people. He knew how to work with people. And Mao, he also understood China. I think he had an understanding of Chinese civilization that was much deeper than anyone else. Because Mao himself, he was from a middle peasant family. He was from a peasant background. He wasn't an urban elite like most of the Communist Party were, but he was also not a peasant himself. He was educated, and so Mao was in this kind of perfect position where he kind of knew how to talk to people all throughout Chinese society. Mao is going to be remembered, I think, in world history. He's going to be, they're going to be talking about Mao thousands of years from now. Not to say that he never made a mistake or never did anything bad, or, I'm not going to just blindly defend everything he ever did, but Mao, in terms of world history, is going to be remembered that way. What I find surprising is that a lot of the young people who call themselves Maoists, they don't like any of that. It's weird, they read, Mao has all these brilliant tactical ways, brilliant ways of interacting with people, building alliances strategically, united fronts, tactics, all kinds of stuff. You read that in Mao. This man was a genius political organizer, and all these young people who like Mao, they like him because he had a gun. It's like Mao, oh, he had a gun, he waged people's war, revolution, and it's like these young people that have a violent revolution fantasy. They like Mao because he waged a violent revolution. And they're missing the point. They're completely missing the point. They're completely missing the point. If all Mao had done is, get his friends together and have a violent revolution, he wouldn't be remembered at all. Mao was remembered because he was a brilliant, brilliant statesman and politician. And he knew how to maneuver, and he knew how to build coalitions and united fronts. And that concept of the mass line, from the masses to the masses, is a brilliant concept, and I've written about it. I've had articles published about it in the Chinese press. I actually compared Mao in an article, lo and behold, and this will be a shock to a lot of people, to Dale Carnegie. Dale Carnegie, the author of the marketing book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? Because Mao's concept of the mass line is basically, how to find out what people want and give it to them. Right? That's basically what Mao's mass line concept is, and that's what Dale Carnegie was writing about back in the 1930s with his book. At the same time, Mao was in the jungles of China, trying to build a revolutionary organization up in the mountains and trying to build a revolutionary organization fighting for the people. There wasn't jungles. I apologize. I misspoke there. But up in the mountains in the countryside. Same time that was happening, you had Dale Carnegie in the U.S. writing books about similar methods. Not trying to impose your will on other people, but trying to find out what it is the people want and give it to them, right? And how to become a voice for a mass sentiment at the time. How to give expression to popular will and sentiments. Mao was a genius. Mao was arguably one of the greatest geniuses that we've seen in the 20th century. And I wish that people that called themselves Maoists and liked Mao would actually look into what Mao did throughout his life and not just fetishize Mao. I think a lot of the people that call themselves Maoists are actually Gang of Fourists. They like the Gang of Four. They like this sectarian politics that came out, and that dominated China from like 1969 to 1976, right? They like hating the Soviet Union and calling it, revisionist. They like the Cultural Revolution. They like, that's what they're about. And that's one moment in Mao's life in which he was very old, and it's debatable how much of a role he even played during that period, how much he even knew that things were happening that way. That's my opinion. I think Mao is definitely worth studying. I'm not going to defend everything he ever did, but he's definitely one of the greatest political statesmen and leaders in the 20th century, and he's going to be remembered. He's on the level of a Julius Caesar. In world history, right? It's been 2,000 years. We're still talking about Julius Caesar. Well, 2,000 years from now, 4,000 years from now, people are going to be talking about Mao because the role that he played was so pivotal. That's what I want to say about Mao. So there you go. And I'm sure there's people that disagree with that, and that's okay. You can disagree with me. It's okay. It's okay. But the other thing is I did bring up Julius Caesar because it's interesting. Michael Parenti wrote a book about Julius Caesar. He wrote, The Assassination of Julius Caesar, The People's History of Ancient Rome, and he argues that Julius Caesar was a populist, that he was rallying like average Romans and defending them against the senators and the elitists. And it's interesting because I reread Shakespeare's Julius Caesar a couple of weeks ago, and it was like I read it with new eyes. And Michael Parenti wildly criticizes that play for how it demonizes ancient Romans, the Roman population, makes them look like barbarians. And other people have criticized, the Michael Parenti book because it's like, okay, well, maybe Julius Caesar did fight for average Romans, but what did he do to everyone outside of Rome? I mean, he was a colonizer and he was building an empire and enslaving people, and that's certainly a fair point. But when I read the Julius Caesar play by Shakespeare, I noticed that the play, it's not like other plays. It's about Julius Caesar being assassinated. Julius Caesar dies fairly early on in the play. But the play is not really about Julius Caesar. There's a line in the play that always gets quoted. It's not our stars. The fault is not in our stars, but in we who are underlings. And Julius Caesar gets stabbed to death early on. But then they spend the rest of the play, Mark Antony, Brutus, others, debating whether or not they should have done it. And that's what it's about, right? So the senators, in the Shakespeare narrative, the senators feel like Julius Caesar is becoming a dictator. So they get together and they kill him, right? And then Rome degenerates into civil war, and the whole time they're going, did we do the right thing by killing him or not? What should we have done this? And there's all this kind of analyzing. There's the speeches at the funeral of Julius Caesar. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ear. And they're going, we needed him. He was a good leader, but he was becoming a dictator. Oh, we had to kill him, but we needed him. And it's interesting. You can almost read it in a Freudian way. Or you could read it in a psychological way, right? I mean, it's like, people want to have a leader, right? They want to have a president. They want to, every country in the world has a head of state. They want a leader to look up to. But on the other hand, people get angry at leaders, right? They don't want to have a tyrant. They don't want to have a dictator. They don't want someone telling them what to do. And it's this contradiction that has existed through all throughout civilization. People want rules and stability and order, but they hate following rules, and they hate stability, and they hate order. It's the contradiction that has kind of defined humanity. And you can even say it starts in the family, right? A child loves their parents. They're dependent on their parents, but then the parents have absolute power over them, and they hate the parents, right? The parents discipline them and punish them and tell them no, and so it's like the child needs the parent, loves the parent, but hates the parent. You could read that play. That's what it's really about, right? It's these people get together and kill Julius Caesar, and they spend the rest of the play wondering if they did the right thing or not, right? That's really what the play is about. And Michael Parenti reads it, in a negative way, where the Roman population are portrayed as barbarians. They kill this guy just because he has the same name as somebody else. They read it that way. But if you read the play, if you watch, the ultimate result of them killing Julius Caesar is Rome degenerating into civil war between Mark Antony and the forces that want to that support the other. I mean, it's you see a stable society with a leader, Julius Caesar. You see a stable society degenerating into chaos. And life getting worse for people in the aftermath of the overthrow of the assassination of Julius Caesar. Now, Julius Caesar is portrayed as if he was tyrannical and corrupt, but they spend the whole play wondering if they did the right thing. It's fascinating reading Shakespeare's Julius Caesar with new eyes, thinking about geopolitics, thinking about how, there was that play where they had Trump dressed as Caesar and there was a huge amount of outrage. It was, it was like where they stabbed, there was a guy who looked like Trump who was Caesar and they stabbed him, and there was all this outrage at Shakespeare in the Park in New York like last year. It's interesting to read Julius Caesar because Shakespeare was onto something, right? It's about the human relationship with leadership and authority and how we love and hate authority at the same time. And it kind of defines the human condition. So that's my philosophical rant there.